Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this voice. Slide presentation for Cisco Information Technology Essentials version 7 training. Okay, so this is our last module for the course. It's a very short module. Uh, we want to understand who is an IT professional and some of the things that we need to learn. We need to understand while carrying out our duty as IT technicians. The module starts from somewhere around here, right? The IT professional. So you need some communication skills, right? Uh, to be able to work as an IT professional, because you're going to be interacting with people. You're going to be interacting with top level management. Any person, anybody that is going to use computers, that's going to use handheld devices, that are going to use mobile phones, you will have to work with them. So, in trying to work with them, what are some of your disposition? What are some of the communication skills you need? Troubleshooting, and at times your professional behavior that is expected of you in the IT profession. Of course, you need to also learn some operational procedures, then some ethical and legal issues in the IT industry. Then call center technicians. In some organizations, somebody might call you and say, okay, my printer is not working. Somebody might call you and say, okay, I want to be able to do this, I want to be able to do that. How do you help the person remotely? So the first one is communication skills and the IT profession. Relationship between communication skills and troubleshooting. If you don't have good rapport with people, you might not be able to understand what they are feeling. You might not be able to understand uh, what the issue is. For you to be able to troubleshoot a computer, you need to learn the details of the problem from the customer. You're asking questions like what happened, how did it happen, when did it happen, what did you do before it happened. All of those questions are things you need to ask, right? Relationship between communication skills and professional behavior, the tone of your voice, right? How do you speak over the telephone? uh, uh Customers can also sense whether you are smiling when you're speaking with them on the phone. Many call center technicians use a mirror at their desks to monitor their facial expression. Yes, because uh if you're trying to help somebody fix a PC issue and you're not welcoming, and your tone is so discordant, and you're acting like I'm sure this is a disturbance, right? That is not a professional behavior. So there's a rule we call know, relate, understand. So you need to know. Call your customer by his or her name. I remember when I was in banking. I don't want to mention the name of the bank. There's just like we said here that call centers at times they put a mirror in front to see their expression. So because if their expression is smiley, the person at the other receiving end of the communication is going to actually understand. Most people will do. In the banking, in banking, for instance, we put they give us some sheet of paper to put just directly opposite us as we interact with the customer. You have things like call customer by his name, put up a smiley face, say goodbye to your customer. So those things are very important, because, for instance, you're running a business. So how you treat your customers, how you treat the person that come for your service will tell you if you're going to succeed in business or not. For instance, for example, if the customer tells you her name is Mrs. Johnson, ask if that is what she prefers to be called by you. She said yes. Yeah, she may give you her first name. In that case, only use the preferred name with the customer. Relate, create a one-on-one connection between you and your customer. Same thing, understand, because not everybody have same PC or technical knowledge with you, so you have to be able to understand them and know how to communicate with them. You need to learn active listening. Allow the customer to tell the whole story. Don't preempt by saying, okay, you know what, no, I think no. Try to understand what the customer is trying to say. You can reply with things like yes, okay, I'm listening. Like most of the times for me, for instance, when even people come into my office, the first thing I ask them is, my name is this, and they try to I say, okay, can I meet you? One of the first lines I normally use is I'm listening. So when I say I'm listening, it's kind of very funny. It opens the person up, and the person is kind of very relaxed to tell that the person can say everything and tell his or her story completely. And you could respond during the conversation with, I understand. Okay, yes, okay. Go on. I'm listening. Do not interrupt the customer to ask question or make a statement. Listen carefully when your customer speak and let them finish their line of thoughts. So the customer might be saying something, because if you interact, or if you interrupt, if you interject, you might they might miss a very important aspect of the issue that will help you diagnose that problem. Open-minded, be very open. Don't assume because, okay, I solved this problem for this client on this PC because of this, automatically the next person's problem is going to be this when I'm going to apply same thing. No, each issue might look related, but they might not be related. So once you've listened to everything, you can explain everything, you can now summarize or repeat what the customer has said, so that once he confirms, then you can now ask some close-ended questions so that you can focus to the most important issue, so that you can close in on your diagnosis. Now, there's a video demonstration that is very important that you listen to, is on your Cisco LMS. Or using professional behavior with a customer. So do not minimize the customer's problem. Don't try to say, okay, that's not a problem. No, why the customer came, because it's an issue for the customer, right? Do not use jargon, abbreviations, acronyms, slangs. Most of the times when I use, even for you as a student, you you're in the IT profession and you're becoming an IT professional. Most of the times when I say some words, they might be acronyms. I try to give the full meaning. Just of recent, I said ICMP. If I just say ICMP, you might not understand what ICMP means. So those are jargons, those are abbreviations. It's good you now say Internet Control Messaging Protocol. Those are just messages that your PC returns to you when you maybe supply some commands. Like when you say your ping command, you say your IFP command, you say trace route, it gives you back some messages. So those messages are called ICMP, Internet Control Messaging Protocol. So your customer really understands that you really care and you actually want to help him or her solve the problem. So don't come up with a negative attitude, right? So you have a list of so many here. And if you work in a call center, or you want somebody else to help you, or you're going to be very busy, while you're trying to transfer, explain why you're transferring. Don't just give the phone to somebody else and say, please help me take care of this person. Okay, tips for hold and transfer. How to put a customer on hold. These are the do's, these are the don'ts. How to transfer a call. These are the do's, these are the don'ts. You have these documents. Please make sure that you go through them. Now, you have a demonstration of how to do that here. Keep the customer call very, very focused, right? Most of the times, you're not going to meet a customer face to face in order to diagnose a problem or solve an issue. It might be over chat, it might be over telephone, it might be over voice note, it might be over a teleconference. Use proper language, listen and ask questions, and give feedback, right? That way you make it very a focused conversation. Yes. Okay, this is a demonstration of a talkative customer. So it's good you watch it on the Cisco LMS. A rude customer, a knowledgeable customer, an angry customer, what not to do, right? Please make sure you go through the scenario video demonstration and the quiz that follows it. Try to answer it. An inexperienced customer, someone that have almost zero knowledge about technical items. Okay, operational procedures. So, purpose of documentation. Uh, when it comes to fixing system, repairing systems, I rarely do that these days, right? I do that once in a while. But I remember back when I would normally fix systems, repair systems almost on a daily basis. I have few systems I still fix. Like for instance, in the office, I have about 4 laptops. Yes, 3 laptops I want to fix. Now, But when I would normally fix several laptops, several desktops, several items on a daily basis, I will have to do documentation. Each gadget, each item, I will have to have a repair sheet, fill up the case number, fill up the name of the customer's phone name, the what might be the issue, what I might be thinking might be the solution. You have to do proper documentation. Times you have to draw diagrams, you have to describe, you have to see, okay, what manual am I going to be, technical manual or user manual am I going to be using. So you need to standardize your procedures. If not, you're going to have issues uh, actually coping or complying with some professional standards and regulations. IT department documentation. So policy document, operation and planning document. So you can review most of these documents, project documents, user documentation. For instance, look at this important one, change management forms. For instance, if somebody else, for instance, a customer says, please upgrade my system from 4 gig RAM to 16 gig RAM. That was not the original plan. You need a change management form, right? Because you need authority. You might incur some more risks. At the same time, you might have an additional cost. So if the client does not commission that, you might have issues at the end of the day. So you don't just work because you want to work because it's good for your customer, it's good for your clients. No. User testing acceptance form. People should not just, you fix a system, you fix an IT problem, and you just said, I'm done. No. They will need to accept, they will need to acknowledge. That's what we call the UAT, user acceptability test, right? They will need to accept that everything is now okay. So you have some compliance issue. Federal, state, most countries they have one or two compliance issues or one or two compliance law. Most a very very basic law is the GDPR law regulation, right? Most countries they have their cybercrime law or act, and you want to review that in terms because you're going to be handling sensitive data, keeping sensitive data. You pick a laptop that was stolen or an IT gadget that was stolen for repair. You have sensitive data with you. If you check your Cybercrime Act or if you checked the GDPR law in terms of keeping sensitive data, there might be some consequence. So you want to make sure that you understand that. So this is what a change control worksheet looks like. There are several templates all over the internet. You could get one. For instance, for a repair sheet, for a change control worksheet, you have several templates that you can use to do your work. Disaster recovery overview. Many people are going to lose their hard disks, they're going to lose their drives, they're going to lose their files. So there are several ways you could do this. You could use softwares. Like just yesterday, somebody's PC had issue. So he posted on his status and said something like, it's good you back up your devices on the cloud. Gmail is going to give you about 15 gig. Apple will give you a particular number of gig. And most services online, they have even a free space that that you can be given before you start paying for maybe 1 terabyte or 500 gigs. So it's good to make sure you do backup services. So you have cloud backup, you have local backup. So you have the advantages and of course disadvantages. For disaster recovery, network design recovery strategy, inventory. You need to take inventory. You need to understand how many hard disks do you have, how many laptops do you have, how many desktop you have. When it comes to disaster, storage is of great importance. So everything and anything that is going to keep data, you want to make sure that you uh, put them in an inventory, archive them, verify them, then do backup from time to time, and even run a kind of a playbook. You kind of simulate an action that seems to be a disaster and see how well you can recover and how fast you are going to recover. So ethical and legal considerations, how do you treat emails? Like I said, those laws, the GDPR law, the Cybercrime Acts, depending on the country you are taking this training from, you want to examine those laws and see what are the implications when it comes to PIIs, people's information, their social security number, their voice messages, their photographs, because you're going to be handling sensitive data. A system have issue, you want to pick up the hard disk, slave it to an external hard disk, external casing, and you want to copy out the files. Do you go tamper with files? You can be sued, right? So you want to be sure of what you are handling and you stay according to the law of your country. Yes, another law is the PCI, Payment Card Industry Law, especially for payments. Then you have the PHI. So all of these laws are very, very important. Because once you understand this law, you see, in all of the cybersecurity courses that you've been taking, you've been talking about laws. When you were doing your forensic course, we talked about laws, talk about regulations, because we want to do whatever we do legally so that we are within the ambits of the law. So it is not permissible to access a customer's or co-worker's account, private files, or email messages without permission. I've had instances where even a web designer, because he have or has access to the cPanel of a particular client, have been stealing from that particular client. That is against the law. Or because you have access to a hard disk, then you copy out files or you copy out materials, you copy out things that are proprietary, things that are illegal for you to copy out, or things that are secret top level information or top secret information. So all of these things you want to make sure you consider them and you're very, very careful. Trademarks, defamation, theft, unauthorized access. Like I said, most countries cybercrime act and the adapted general data protection regulation from EU, if you study it properly, it's going to help you a whole lot. Licensing, so there are different types of software. So when you download softwares, when you use softwares, you want to make sure that you have had instances where somebody's arrested because using a pirated software. So you want to be careful. For instance, you see me, I'm not using a pirated Microsoft or use software. So instead of doing that, I could as well use a free version of WPS software, right? Okay. Computer forensics. Yes. Most of us in this class, we have enrolled in the computer forensic course, and we're in our day 3. So most of the things you're going to have here are just very, very basic items, right? The digital forensic course you are taking in is more elaborate. We've looked at NKs, we've looked at autopsy, we've looked at sys internals, we've looked at OpenStego, we've looked at Wireshark, we've looked at several tools that we can use to do computer forensics. It's just in the habit of CISCO across through their courses to try to introduce some higher concepts in most of their low-level courses, so that to 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 give their students a kind of an intro to their higher courses. For instance, if you're learning CCNA 1, most of the items in CCNA 2 is going to be introduced to you. Just basic introduction. When you get to CCNA 2, most of those things you learned in CCNA 1 is not going to be expounded. And you're going to be introduced with few things in CCNA 3 just that way. So that's how CISCO plans their courses and makes it very, very easy for students to actually cope. So most of these things we have covering them in the forensic course. Chain of custody, yes, we have a whole class altogether just for chain of custody. Call center technicians. So this is reducing by the day, but for people that work with either telecoms or support technicians, you have different levels of stages in which they work. So you can see somebody working at a level 1, somebody level 2, level 3, and a problem not solved in level 1 can be escalated to the next level there to top before it gets to top management. Okay, so this is what a work order looks like. I used to have one back in the days. I call it my worksheet. I get the person's name, the person's address, uh, what kind of laptop, what type of device, what the issue is, what the summary is, and uh, what might be the problem, and what might be my possible solution. Okay, so these are some scripts, basic commands, variable environment, conditional statements, while loops, basic scripting. Um, you could take up a Python programming language course or a PHP web development course. Most of these things will make a whole lot of sense to you. For every programming language, you have basic things like variable, that's the container for instance, if you say x equals to 5, y equals to 10, you could say you could perform operations with the variables. You could do x times y, x divided by y. You could perform different operations. So if you want to go into programming, you could take a proper programming course. You're going to understand this better. Okay, now in this module 14, we looked at why communication is very critical for an IT professional. If you want to go into networking, you can take a proper networking course. So this IT essential course is your foundational course when it comes to IT. It's like your first level course in tech. So if you want to take a networking course, you can go into that. If you want to take a web development course, you can go to that. If you want to take a digital forensic course, you can go into that. Right? IT is very, very broad. If you want to go into cybersecurity, so this gives you a kind of a broad foundation. And this is the last module for the IT essential course. So I hope you take other Cisco courses. I hope you continue in your passion for tech, for IT, for the good of humanity.